Governor of Florida Ron DeSantis appeared on Fox News with Jesse Waters and talked about possible presidential ambitions and got asked about Trump's recent series of attacks against DeSantis, and we'll walk through some of these clips. But I want to remind you not to get used to the reality we're in right now, because I know it's hard, but genuinely, we can't forget that things are bonkers right now. It is truly unfortunate that, think about this, okay? The United States of America, the most powerful country in all of the memory of human existence, the great America, and our current options, likely options for one of the major political parties, what it's going to be is Ron DeSantis, who's just openly against education as we know it, Donald Trump, who's just openly against democracy as we know it, and Nikki Haley, who's just openly against having any actual positions and talking about any actual policies. And so I have to say, we can't have Trump as the nominee because he's the guy who did the coup, right? But then our other options are... So obviously the hope is that the Democratic candidate will win, but it is truly such a wild time that we're in right now. This will be the story that is told about, hopefully, the time we got through that was really, really shaky and really strange and separate from all the dangerous aspects, just bunkers. So don't forget that, okay? Just a little random rant to go on. Now we get into these clips. First, him getting asked if he's running for president.
The Courage to Be Free, I got it a little while ago. I'm through chapter 2. It's well written. I mean, you're obviously running for president. You got the book. You're going around the country doing these events. I mean, what's going on here,
well,
Governor?
Tell you what, I've got, well, I'm proud of what we've done in Florida. A lot of people ask me how you do it. But I've got, over the next few months, I've got a big legislative session. We just won a big re-election victory. I made a lot of promises. We're going to deliver on those promises. So finish reading the book. I'm happy to come back and discuss that with you. But I'd like to come back over the next 3 months and discuss a lot of these legislative wins that we're having. For example, we're going to make sure our universities are free from this DEI ideology. And that's going to be a great bill to be able to sign here coming up very soon.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's bravely fighting back against it. His next legislative action is going to be targeting puppies, babies, and rainbows, ladies and gentlemen. God forbid people are aware of the beautiful and present differences between us and how we should not hate one another based on those, and including people of all different identities and stages of life, and equity, trying to fight for the well-being of all people in all different situations, and understanding the different realities that create the situations that we then want to address and uplift people and communities that have been underserved. Get that out of our schools. Okay, next moment, he gets asked he gets asked about Trump's recent rantings about him.
All right, well, former President Donald Trump definitely thinking about you. You haven't said a lot. I know you've heard what he said. You can see this collision is coming, can't you?
Well, look, Jesse, I mean, he used to say how great of a governor I was, and then I win a big victory, and all of a sudden, he had different opinions. And so you could take that for what it's worth. But, at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons I've been successful as governor is I don't really pay attention to a lot of the background noise. I mean, he's obviously a big fish, but I get attacked all the time from every different angle. And you either put points on the board or you don't. And so I just focus on delivering the wins. And I think we've done a pretty good job of following through on our promises.
All right, well.
So I do think DeSantis is going to announce soon. And that's going to be his message. And what we've seen him kind of start to build up is this idea, right? That he's kind of the Trump, but more professional and can talk more like an not old-fashioned, but more traditional politician, and is even more anti-vax, but actually wins, can actually get the successes, whereas Trump is the loser here. And even though I think in theory, in kind of a normal political setting, with a Trump-like figure, it would be smart to go, I'm not really focused on that. I'm focused on getting things done. That sounds like it would be nice, right? And I think in the Democratic Party, if there was someone constantly attacking, and an opposing candidate kind of had that message, it might work, because Democrats are a little bit more concerned with policy and substantive conversations within primary settings, whereas I don't think that's going to work actually for the Republican Party, just based on what we saw in 2016, where that type of attitude was seen when observing the way that the the opponents of Trump in the 2016 Republican primary approached these conversations. They would try to come off as the more serious politician, the adult, and Trump's just over there ranting. But clearly the base liked the rantings. They liked the nicknames. They liked the wild accusations of Ted Cruz's dad being involved in some conspiracy theory, and his wife, alluding to the idea that his wife was ugly, Trump did, and all of that. Clearly they liked that. And so I don't think being the bigger man or staying kind of at the higher ground as far as DeSantis goes will work. I think he would have to get in the mud a little bit to win over some of those MAGA voters. Unfortunately, I wish we were talking about policy. Can you imagine policy within a Republican primary? No, we need to get the woke out of the schools. That's the problem. One more interview here from DeSantis, getting asked pretty much the same questions.
Am I wrong to assume that there's the excellent chance you're running for president?
So what I would say is we've got a lot of support. A lot of people want us to do it. I've got business to attend to. This book is part of that. My legislative session's part of that. So we get on the end of that in a couple months. We'll be able to see where it goes. But I do think it's not all just about who ends up running for president. That's important, because I think nationally we need a change in direction. But I think our individual states do have the capacity to drive the national agenda. Florida drove the national agenda on so many things, on having kids in school during COVID, on opposing the employer vax mandates and things like that. Education, we've led the way. I like to see a competition amongst all the red states about who can kind of outdo each other. So I do think it's a blueprint for other states. I do think it can be applied nationally, but it's less about me than about, I think, the underlying principles that we need to restore our country.
I read the whole thing, not one disparaging word about President Trump. Are you guys speaking now? Do you plan on speaking to him? He seems to be taking some shots at you.
No, look, it's silly season. You know how some of this stuff goes, and obviously he does his thing, and it's just that's kind of who he is. But
it's silly season, and that's the approach. I'm not concerned with that, but for some reason, that's what a lot of those voters want to see. I'm just basing that off of Trump's success in 2016, and I don't think using the same playbook that many of the candidates that lost to Trump in 2016 is going to work. But we'll see. And I do actually want DeSantis to get in the race so that we can start watching those kerfluffles, those debacles, especially on a debate stage, seeing that whole thing, especially because Trump has changed a lot since 2016 and since the debates that were going on, and would just be even more unhinged, and you can imagine him being all sweaty and just a mess going after DeSantis, and then us trying to process why he's still prevailing within the GOP. It's strange, but that's the time that we're in. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get the full bonus show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley. Link in the description.